Good morning. It's Saturday, December the 18th. And I was having my time with the Lord this morning. And He reminded me of a dream that I had years ago. And that dream impacted me so much. And I can't believe I'd forgotten about it. But, when the Lord brings things back to our memory and we have an emotional response to the memory of it, I feel like in some way that's God's way of saying that, we need to encourage others with this. So that's why I'm making this video. I don't know that I've ever made a video about this dream. In fact, I really had kind of forgotten about it. But it was exactly what I needed at the exact moment that I needed it. And many of you are having encounters with the Lord right now because there's a time of despair that you're going through or some test or trial, and you just need to know that He's with you. He might be quiet, and you wonder if He knows what you're going through. So in this dream that I had, this was back in 2011, and we had just lost our house in a foreclosure after the financial collapse, and we had 3 young children, and everything just got turned upside down. And God's been really good to restore everything that was lost and then some. But at the time, when you're going through the trial, you're not real sure how it's going to end up. You just have to walk blindly and just know that you have to trust Him in everything. And we had learned to be content. And, as the mother, I was putting on the strong face, and, we were making the most of it for our children's sake, but I just was really in a lonely place. I had heard Jesus speak my name before upon waking, and I knew it was Him. And I felt His presence so often, but when we were going through this really hard trial, I just didn't feel His presence like I wanted to. So I just walked in blind faith. I knew whatever He had for us, we were having to go through this time, and we just trusted Him. But in this dream, during this time, I was in the DMV, doing something ordinary and mundane, like going to renew my driver's license or something. So I was in this line at the DMV. And I was just standing there, and nobody was talking to each other. Everybody was on their cell phones and looking down. And, we were just muddling through, and just the line was moving forward, and I would just move forward with it. And so I'm just standing there, and I noticed suddenly to my right a full-length mirror. And I turned and looked in the mirror, and I saw myself standing in the line, but standing directly in front of me, facing me, was a tall man. He had on blue jeans and a red denim jacket and a baseball cap. And I knew it was Jesus. And I looked in that mirror, and I saw, just as plain as day in the mirror, Him looking directly down at me, standing right up in my personal space, like just looking down at me. And I looked back in front of me, and I didn't see anybody. I just saw the back of the man in front of me in the line. So I looked back into the mirror, and there was this man, Jesus. He was standing there staring at me with the most loving look on His face. And so I just was focused on that mirror. I knew that He was standing right there with me in line. I couldn't see Him when I looked directly in front of me, but I could see His reflection in the mirror. And I knew He was standing there with me. And He wasn't talking to me, and I wasn't talking to Him. I was just observing myself in the mirror. When I'd look into the mirror, I'd see myself looking at myself, but He just never took His eyes off of me. He was always standing with His back to the guy in front of me, and He was facing me, right up in front of me. And so I just got fixated on this mirror. I could feel His presence. I was watching Him watching me in the mirror. And I knew that He was right there with me, even though I couldn't see Him. I just got so much comfort from staring at him looking at me in this mirror. So I don't know how long this went on, but then I heard my name called. And I didn't want to leave the room. I didn't want to take my eyes off this mirror. So I stepped out of the line and stood over in a corner where I could still see the mirror. And when I stepped out of the line, in the mirror's reflection, I stepped away while he was still standing there. And as I stepped away, watching him in this mirror, this little girl with a little white nightgown, she looked to be no more than 4 or 5 years old, long blonde curly hair. She ran up to him, little barefooted thing, cutest little thing. She ran up to him in the mirror, and he scooped her up and held her so tightly to himself. And she wrapped her arms around his head, and they just embraced, and he just rocked back and forth, holding this little girl. And I just sat there in the corner watching him embracing this little girl in the mirror. And then I woke up. And when I woke up, I was kind of sad. Like I said, I wish I could feel you hug me, like I saw you hugging that little girl. And I heard him say in my spirit, you are that little girl. So, sorry. I can't believe I'd forgotten about this dream. But I was having my coffee this morning, and you can see the Bible verse right here in the coffee cup that I was drinking from. And he reminded me of that verse. He reminded me of the dream this morning. And he reminded me of that verse. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. We think that's a metaphor for, yeah, he's all-knowing and he's everywhere and he's omnipresent. But that is so literal. He is literally standing right beside you or in front of you or around you. He is with you. He knows everything you're going through. He knows every hair on your head. He knows every detail of your life. I was reminded also of this verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, starting with verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as I also am known. When it says we see through a glass darkly, that's a mirror. That's the way I see that we're looking in a mirror and we can't make out the full picture. He chose to show me in this dream through a mirror that he was standing there. Even though with my own eyes looking in front of me, I could not see him. I could see him standing there in the mirror. We see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. So while we're here, we have to exercise faith to know that even though we can't see him, he is there. We only see through the glass darkly. We only see a part of the picture. But then we will see him face to face. Our faith will become our sight, and we will see him. We just have to get through these times of despair and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is right there with you. He will never leave or forsake us. And that is literal. I hope this blesses someone out there. You are that child that he is embracing. He is right there with you. Do not lose sight of that fact, even when you can't see. Y'all be blessed and have a great day.